welcome to the Mental Health Impact Series presented by Reach Out Together, a social organization dedicated to helping people maintain good mental health. My name is Aanchal, the host of today's Sit Down Talk series with interesting and influential professionals promoting mental health and recovery. Thank you for all the love, the support, and the feedback we've received so far towards this initiative, which is helping us tremendously keep up and look for influential speakers to encourage all of us to seek help. In today's episode, we have Aalia Lanius, the American novelist, a business leadership coach, and an inspirational speaker. Aalia is also the founder of Unsugarcoated Media. Today, we're going to get personal, guys. We're going to share some stories, lessons learned, and really talk about recovery. So why don't we start with a brief introduction on your profession, Aalia, and the journey that brought you here?
Well, thank you for having me, first of all. What's brought me to this place is accomplishing certain things in my life. I had built a very successful business. I had what most people would consider a picture perfect life, and a lot of people were calling me this inspirational person, but I didn't feel so inspirational because I really truly wasn't letting them in. I wasn't sharing everything that was happening in my life. When I started to become okay with sharing my story, I became more empowered myself, and I felt it was very critical to then empower others with the truth behind my story. So that's really, so I spend my time creating events, content and everything to just really speak to social issues that we have today, boldly, plainly, straightforward. And yeah, that's it.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. When it comes to mental health, right? Often people don't seek the right support because there's a stigma, the stigma that prevents people from reaching out to get the help that they need. So when it comes to mental health, what would you say maintaining positive mental health is? What does it mean to you?
Mental health to me and maintaining it is no different than any other part of our body. So I know I didn't mention it, but I am a 3-time cancer survivor, and I'm a mother of 4. So anyone who's had a child knows that right there, that's a very stressful, it's a very, it's a lot mentally, physically. Having cancer is a lot mentally, physically. And so what I've learned to understand is that mental health to me is no differently than a broken bone, that you get your arm broken. You wouldn't walk around without a cast. If you broke a leg, you wouldn't walk around and hop on it. That would be foolish, and it wouldn't heal right. And to me, the brain, the mental health aspect is sometimes you need support, sometimes you don't. But when you need it, you need to use it because it can help you get through it. So that's what it's become very important to me, to let people know it's okay to use crutches,
Absolutely. And would you say, Aalia, that mental health differs for women, for men, for people that go to work, employees or employer? Would you say mental health differs individually?
Oh, absolutely. Especially based on culture, Aanchal. Like I come from a culture personally. We know a little bit about each other. A woman is supposed to be able to handle everything, take care of the kids, clean the house, manage stay in love with your relationships and do all these things and be superheroes, right? But at the same token, every superhero sometimes has to come to that point where they put down the cape, they put down the mask, and they ask, "Am I really a superhero?" And we have these people that feel it's not a good thing to go out and ask for help or get the support that they need. And it differs absolutely based on cultural backgrounds, financial backgrounds. Some people can't afford. There are some people who want to get help but don't know that they can, don't know how to get it. Their insurance may not cover it. They can't afford the co-pays. Mental health, I actually worked in the medical sector for a long time. And mental health benefits are, considered a luxury almost. It's at least here in the United States, it's not that critical. It was it's a caveat to a plan. So to know that they don't place much importance on that to support it, even, absolutely has to do with a lot of reasoning why people will or will not get the help that they need from time to time. And that doesn't always mean that help is like you're ready to jump off a cliff. Sometimes it can just, I have to share this story really quick. When I was diagnosed with cancer, my doctor actually handed me a prescription for an antidepressant. And I looked at her, I said, oh, I don't need that. I've been through a lot of stuff in my life. I don't need an antidepressant. Of course, because there was this stigma in my head, of the like, oh, if you take an antidepressant, then there must be something wrong with you. And I'm not going to lie, a year later, I was like, can I please have that back? Can you please give that to me? I was no longer afraid to ask for help because I had definitely taken on a lot. And though I wasn't in some suicidal state, I was willing to give it a try. And I think that some people just are afraid to give it a try.
Why would you say that is, Aalia? Because, at the end of the day, when we are aware ourselves of, what is happening with us, like self-awareness, they say, and also awareness of other things, what are the professional treatments available out there? What would you say is hindering people internally to actually go seek that help?
Well, I think it's two things. It's one, perception on what that means. I'm going to a therapist. Oh, well, why are you going to a therapist? So there's, again, but you feel better afterwards. For some reason, you feel a little bit better, a little bit more relieved because you've said it out loud, or you've said something and you've shared something and you've taken that weight off of your shoulder. Well, I don't think that people recognize how good that can be, or to even have, we have this inner narrative that we listen to a lot, but sometimes it's not really telling us the best thing. You go to someone or you share with a friend or someone who has a professional experience in this, like, what we try to do, and you open up those chambers so that people then start to realize, oh, wow, this is actually making me better. I'm starting to now decipher when I'm telling myself negative thoughts or when I'm telling myself positive thoughts. Because to me, mental health, is everything between our ears is what we use to get through everything in day. Whether it's a screaming child, whether it's a board meeting, whether it's starting a new business, whether it's all, we use that. And it's amazing how I think that, until people start to recognize the benefits and we start really promoting those benefits and people accept that, then hopefully, that shift can change.
Absolutely. Would you say all of this awareness and, you being out here today, being an advocate really for mental health, creating that space for people in your community, should they hear this podcast, to want to come up to you, reach out to you, and share with you what they're going through, because chances are that would happen. Would you say, or rather, what experiences have you been through? Starting from perhaps the cancer, maybe before that, it could be through childhood too, it could be our upbringing. But what would you say would be one mental health challenge or an illness that you faced? And how would you describe what it's like living in it?
So I'm going to go back. I actually come from a unique background, and it's definitely been faced with a lot of the tragedies and triumphs that I even write about in my own books. My first novel was based on my own life. But going back, the first thing, when I was a child, between the ages of 4 and 7 years old, I was molested by 5 different men. I was sexually assaulted in my teenage years. When I was 14 years old, I was abandoned by both my parents. And I actually, I had to sleep on the streets at 14 years old. I was staying in hospital ICU units, the waiting rooms, because I had nowhere to go. And I share very candidly that at that time, I remember stealing a pack of No-Dos from a convenience store. And I took the whole pack, and I ended up getting very sick from that. But obviously, it didn't do the job that I had intended. And one of the things that I share, and it does make me emotional to think that more than once in my life, I thought that my life wasn't worth living and that it was okay if I died. I had to face that challenge of finding within myself my purpose for living. I went through that and I overcame that. I got married later on. I had children. And then I found myself in a very, very unhealthy marriage to a man who had physically abused me, verbally abused me, and ultimately we got divorced. But it was finally, it was definitely a point where I realized I had questioned why I had survived cancer if we weren't going to be together. And I was so upset at myself, Aanchal, that I gave someone else that much power to make me question whether I should be here or not, whether I should be a mother or not. And I think back to even that 14-year-old girl, and I can tell you the truth, I would tell her, you're going to miss out on so much amazing things. Sure, you're going to see bad days. You're going to have the most inexplicable pain at times in life, but you're going to get through it. And then there are going to be these moments that make life so worth living for. So those are some of the challenges, I can't lie, that really made me look in the mirror and say, what do you want? Do you want to live? Do you want to live well? Do you want to live feeling down about yourself? Or do you want to find the fire within you and then, bring it out and like, do this right. Do this the way that you want to. Because I don't think that anybody who's really unhappy wants to be unhappy. You want to be better. But that's the thing. It is a choice to an extent. And that for some people, if it means a medical intervention, then if there's that choice to go get it, to go seek it. Where there is a will, there is a way. And to be honest, a closed mouth never gets fed. So, you have to seek it. So once I really started to say, this is it, this is enough. And I wrote about that in my first book, a lot of things changed. And again, becoming truly empowered within myself. And that was a difficult time to face, but I'm glad I got through it. And that's what I'm doing now.
Aalia, you are such a powerful woman, I must say. I'm so inspired by you. As a matter of fact, when we spoke even, I'm going to say a year ago, that's the one sentence you said to me about not quitting because you don't know, like, what if you look, when you look back in time, what would you say to yourself? And those words actually run through my mind whenever, it's not that I think of quitting, but at the same time, there are those moments where you're every day pushing and pushing and pushing. And then maybe at the end of the week, you're like, you know what? I need to relax, right? But it's in those moments when certain things that people say to you, they just stick. And all that you have to do is recite that, remember that, and move forward. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Aalia, for being yourself and just openly sharing. If you don't mind me asking, what resources or self-help strategies would you recommend for people to incorporate themselves to overcome any challenges they're going through?
To be honest, I would say reading, it would be a great first start. I think reading helps people, and so many people often do. So reading a good, a book, like Jack Canfield or Tony Robbins, or even if you go online, some of the YouTube videos surrounding some of the people that are really helping, yourself, your organization, and, even what I'm doing, that's what we're doing. We're out there. So I would say to these people, go look at the people, seek the people who are trying to issues, because it's important for them to know that they're not alone. It's important to know that there can be change. And most of all, that there is hope. There's always hope, even in the dark. That's where it starts, because if you don't educate yourself on even what's happening with you, I mean, I know I've read books and then you start to see things and you're like, oh, well, that's me. Oh, okay. That's it. That's where, and then you see what worked for them, and not everything that works for someone else will work for you. But that's the wonderful thing. There are so many people out there right now. Empowerment, personal development. This is not the 1950s where you couldn't find that everywhere. You can go into your local bookstore and you can find amazing, inspirational help if you're wanting to do it alone. If not, I would say make an appointment with your doctor, and just let them know and be honest. Honesty is definitely the best policy when it comes to this stuff. Nobody does any favors by hiding it, because at the end of the day, there's no such thing as a perfect life. I've told you, Cinderella sold a lie. Our life is going to be full of challenges. And that is definitely the truth, but it is how we approach them. It is how we, I've even had moments where maybe, I chastise my own self. I talk to myself, well, what are you doing? Why are you thinking like that? And it's funny because when you can get to that point where you're your counselor, you not only save some money, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's better. Okay. So you can move forward a lot faster.
I love that. Thank you, Aalia. For our listeners and viewers, if you are to explain what Unsugarcoated Media does, what would it be?
We strive to be a community of people who want to embrace each other, create a safe space to share, and share content that really does, like I said earlier, talk about these issues. I do talk about homelessness. I talk about molestations. I talk about survivorship of sexual assault. I talk about, you know, mom shaming, all these different topics that are, you know, influencing our society. We're going to be doing real life, real issues, you know, and actually also to follow up to what you had also just asked, I would say also the other thing is to reach out to organizations. I'm sorry, not just books. You look for organizations that deal with, you know, when I went through cancer, I connected with an organization called I'm Too Young for This Cancer. It saved my life. It saved my life by getting to know other people who had been through similar circumstances and could support me. So that's actually, I'm sorry, Aanchal, I just have to throw that in. And that is a second piece because it is very important and you can create some really amazing long friendships. And so Unsugarcoated Media, it's not specific to cancer, but that's what we want to do. We are a community of people who want to support each other and have just, you know, continue to do some amazing things here in, not just within LA, not just within California, but internationally.
That's amazing. And if they are to find you or contact you, what would be the best means for them to do so?
Two ways. Unsugarcoatedmedia.com is the website. People are always welcome to send questions through there, follow up on events we're going to be having, book signings. But my fave place is Instagram, Aalia_unsugarcoated. It is, I run it, and I do take pride in really connecting with people, and then they can follow along on my crazy journey.
Amazing. On that note, and a very good note, we thank you, Aalia, for your time. Thank you.
Okay, my dear. I love you guys so much and appreciate you.